story, but I'm pretty impressed by the videos you do have out there, and it's looking pretty nice.
I appreciate that, man.
So
You know, sorry. Can I ask one question? But while on the topic, so
Yeah.
Joshua, are you picking up a deer rifle or a fishing rod this time of year?
You're listening to the official podcast of the Texas Saltwater Fishing Magazine, Texastails, with your hosts, Josh Shive and James Cossett.
welcome, folks. This is Texas Tales, the official podcast of Texas Saltwater Fishing Magazine. I am your host, Joshua Shive, and I have here with me James Cossett. James, what's happening, my brother?
Not much. It's that exciting time of the year. Deer season's kicked off. Fishing's still pretty good. All the good stuff's happening. Game wardens are busy.
Yeah, that is true. And, this is the hard time of year where you got to pick between fishing and hunting. And it is not just deer hunting, it's duck hunting too. So you got a lot of stuff to do and a lot to pick from.
Well, that's what a friend of mine was like, hey, let's go down this weekend. And I was so gung ho to say yes. And then I was like, man, we got a really good cold front coming in on Tuesday. And I was like, yeah, I already said yes. So we're still going to go down and fish. And, the fishing should be excellent this time of year, especially before these big fronts come through.
Yeah. So in this time of year, what's your go-to? The cold front's coming in. You going duck hunting? You going deer hunting? What are you doing?
Man, I'm an upland guy, as you can see over my right shoulder. So the duck hunting, I like to do it, but it's a pure at convenience. It's an elective in my schedule. The first few weekends I hunt a lot of small acreage, so it's real a lot of pressure. So if you don't make it happen in these first couple weekends, it gets real hard to get those special bucks. And it seems like we're setting to be into a pretty cold winter, which I'm thrilled for. This is the first year I can think that opening weekend had a nice sustained cold front, and we've got another one coming in for the next weekend. The good Lord's doing some work for us.
No doubt. I think this weekend we were talking about it with some of the lease members, and we were like, this is the best weather that we've had in an opening weekend, and I couldn't even tell you how long. It was nice and cool, not too hot in the evenings. The deer weren't moving great. A lot of small bucks moving, and some that were just starting the rut here and there. But it was beautiful weather.
And I was going to ask you, have you ever tagged out opening weekend? Because I don't think I ever have.
I think I did when I was a kid, but ever since as an adult, opening weekend's been work, filling feeders, making sure the timers are set, and then getting it ready for the family.
I'm going to admit this, and man, I might be the stupidest person on YouTube. I'll admit this 100%. I could not figure out when my stupid deer feeder was going to go off because of daylight savings time,
Oh
to
yeah.
the point that my wife and I had bets on when it was going to go off, and somehow we were both wrong because my timer reset, so it's going off at like midnight and 2 a.m. right now for no
Oh my
reason.
goodness.
But man, I don't consider myself a stupid individual. I could not figure out when that stupid deer feeder was going off with the time change to save my life.
So did y'all see anything opening weekend? Any good stories?
Yeah, so my niece, she's my goddaughter, my niece, she got her first deer, which is always such a special thing, and she was just exhilarated. It was a perfect shot. She was excited with it. It was a really nice doe, older, mature doe. What we like to see go, and it was funny. My brother was like, "Yeah, I told her, get on it, get ready." And she shoots a little 223, and he goes, next thing I know, it went off, and I was like, man, I really hope she shot the right deer. And we were talking about it, but now she shot the right deer, and it was excellent. And then her sister and I sat Saturday night, and we saw a buck that would have went as big as biggest deer I've ever shot's like 135, and this deer would have went 135 if not a little bit more. And he walked through at about 35 yards, and she just never could really get set on him. And then she got the shakes a little bit, and
Oh
we let him
man.
walk and we watched him, but it was a cool experience. And she's like, this is terrible. Why does anybody do this?
That is,
What about you?
you know, just to kind of follow up, that is one of the most exhausting things when you're trying to put your kids, your wife on a good deer, and the one does show up, and you're sitting there waiting and just hoping that they can succeed in this moment, because you know how bad it feels when you do miss that shot, or if they just walk through and you don't get a chance to get the shot. So I can I can definitely feel for you in those moments. We had a pretty good
The,
weekend. Like I said, we did mostly work. It was guys' weekend, so we're sitting around watching football, filling feeders, doing all that kind of cool stuff. and then really just prepping everything for when the families come out the next couple of weekends. So I think we're going to go fishing this weekend and then let it rest
Nice.
and then get back to it, you know, the third weekend.
That is kind of always the secret. The pressure's so hard that first 2 days. It does feel like as you kind of move into like just that first weekend off, it does feel like there's just almost like that little extra glimmer of hope that those deer just don't have all the activity. And there are a lot of people who have work. You work, you don't get the chance to fill those feeders, so you're doing it Saturday morning or you're doing it Friday night. You definitely can feel the pressure of that opening weekend beyond just the hunting itself. And there are years it sounds like a war zone. And this year, I mean, I'd say heard 3 or 4 shots, and I got 2 target deer I'm watching just super heavily. That every time you heard that shot, you're like, man, I really hope he didn't go over there.
No, I get it. All right, James. So we got a special guest today. Why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest and let us know a little bit about him, and we'll get him in here.
Yeah, I've been watching his online content, I'd say, for the last 5, 6 years. Found him through a friend of a friend on Facebook, and I just thought was interesting. He posted very real fishing videos, and I got to talk to him a little bit here recently. And he's a kayak guide out of the Freeport area. And his name's Joshua Johnson. And like I said, his online social media content is just extraordinary. And even if you're not a fisherman, just from the pure beauty standpoint of catching tailing redfish, this guy might be the best at videography in that sense. It's always super interesting, super captivating, and he does a really good job of portraying fish kind of the way you experience him on the water, not necessarily just always the way you see him on TV. So I love his content, and I think his likes and views definitely reflect that he's super talented. So yeah,
Well,
without further ado,
yeah,
let's go
I
to Joshua Johnson.
can't wait to hear from him. Listen,
Can you hear
Joshua
us all right?
Johnson, how are you
Hey,
doing,
what's up?
buddy?
Doing pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing
Man, we
great.
need one more J name in here.
I know. I'm loving the name.
How are
So
y'all doing tonight?
good, man. Hopefully, we don't take up too much of your time, but we've been getting to know your videos and really getting to know a little bit about you, and hopefully we can get to know your backstory. But I'm pretty impressed by the videos you do have out there, and it's looking pretty nice.
I appreciate that, man.
So
Oh, sorry. Can I ask one question? But while on the topic, so
Yeah.
Joshua, are you picking up a deer rifle or a fishing rod this time of year?
I'm strictly a fisherman. I'm addicted to the tug. So
I can fully understand that. That's the challenge this year. And I'm gonna go ahead and do the same. I'm gonna go fishing this weekend, and then I'll get back to hunting next weekend. So the struggle is definitely real.
it's
So
hard to juggle those two, I'm sure.
oh, no doubt. So Josh, why don't you go ahead and just kind of let us know a little bit about yourself and take us back to what really got you started in fishing all the way back when you were a kid and growing up. What did you do? How did you even get into this?
So I've actually been fishing my whole life. Grew up in Freeport, Texas, and my dad always took me fishing. But back then we'd be bank fishing, soaking dead shrimp, on a double drive leader, uh, fishing off the bank. Spots that you can't even fish now because of 9/11 and all that kind of stuff. And so I grew up doing that, and then I would do some boat fishing every now and then. My grandfather had a boat, and we would go out fishing. And it was about 5 years ago. I was doing a job. I run a lawn business, and I was doing a job for a client, and he gave me a kayak, and it was one of them cheap Pelican sit-in kayaks. And I took it out there, and I think I went fishing behind Saltgrass Bait and Tackle in Freeport over there. And I went out and I was like, this is kind of cool, but man, I feel like there's got to be better kayaks than this because I'm kind of struggling here with this thing. And I think I joined a group on Facebook called Dirty South Kayak Anglers. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that group, but it was one of the first kind of kayak fishing groups ran by Mariel Selesky and a couple of those guys. And they were all using the Hobie kayaks. And I was like, oh,
Okay.
I was like, pedals on a kayak. Man, that looks a lot more nice than than
That's
paddling
advanced
around.
right there.
And so I actually ended up getting a feel-free kayak, which was a slight upgrade from the Pelican, but that thing was heavy. It was like paddling a barge around. And I caught my first slot redfish off a kayak, and that was it. I mean, I was hooked right after that. Caught it on a popping cork with some gulp shrimp, and after that, I was like, okay, well, I need to get something a little better, and started saving up and got me a Hobie Outback with a pedal drive. Got me a really good deal on that, and just started. Man, I was addicted. I mean, I was going 3 to 4 times a week, and benefits of owning your own business is you have a little bit more flexibility to go fishing more. And so started really getting into it. And I'm the kind of person, when I get into something, I mean, I get laser focused and I get obsessed. And
Right.
so I got obsessed, and people started noticing that I was doing good, catching redfish all the time. And they were like, "Ah, I want to go. I want to go." All these people wanted to go. I ain't got the time to take everybody fishing. And then I noticed there was a demand for kayak guides because I don't know if y'all remember, but during COVID, like the kayak and fishing just blew up. And so many people started going fishing. So many people started buying kayaks. And I would always see these posts for people asking for kayak guides, and there would always be only two kayak guides, and it was Mariel Selesky and Jared Easley. And I actually went on trips with both of those guys when I first started out and learned quite a bit from them. And I was like, you know what? There's a demand here. There's a need here for another kayak guide. So I'm going to go ahead and become one. And it took about a year or two before I finally finished getting all my credentials and everything. And then 2 years ago, I started kayak guiding, and yeah, so I'm obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with chasing redfish up shallow. That's my favorite thing to do. Not much of a trout guy, I will go trout fishing every now and then with my buddies that like fishing for trout. But I like seeing that redfish and casting up shallow, and getting that thrill of sight casting that big old redfish.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's it's funny how everybody starts as a kid. You kind of have these phases of where you get and where you go. And when I first started fishing, we had this big long canoe that we would take across the intercoastal, and it was the silliest looking thing. But you know what? It got us to the fish, and it got us to where we started loving doing it. So
Heck
I
yeah.
fully get it. So how'd you get going in the social media and the videos? You've got a lot of really cool videos, and everybody loves a good telling redfish, lay the bait right out in front of them video. Those are just beautiful.
So I got a little bit of knowledge in social media because I used to be in a band. Actually, a drummer. That was my first passion when I was younger. And I was in a band with this guy, and he was really dedicated to growing this thing. And his wife was a marketing major, and so I learned a little bit more about marketing and stuff through them, and really just how to put yourself out there and not be afraid, what people think, and kind of adopted that mindset early on. And then I used to fish with well, I still fish with him. It's been a while. There's a guy named David Foreman. He used to be a kayak guide, and he has a YouTube channel called Trail Chaser. Amazing content, man. Y'all ought to check him out. He fly fishes only now for redfish, and he kills it all the time. And so I was really getting inspired by him when it comes to point of view, catching the fish and everything with the GoPro, and kind of just started from that, and just started putting videos out. And a couple of the first videos that really went viral was schooling redfish. And for some reason, people really love to see them schools of redfish.
Oh yes, there ain't
So
no doubt about that.
yeah, so I was like, okay, there's something here. So I started doing a lot more, trying to get more videos of schools because I was always out there in the shallow marsh. And people are like, man, how come I never see stuff like this? I'm like, well, you got to get back there. You got to get up shallow. And yeah, it kind of just took off from there, man. And then I actually started getting some revenue from Facebook for my content. And I was like, well, this is nice, a little extra paycheck every month. I was like, so I started putting a little bit more energy into putting videos out there, and that's basically it.
So what do you love most about the guiding aspect? When I think about guiding, I think about the anxiety of, oh man, we have to put these people on fish, or, I'm going to get a bad rap. So what's the enjoyment with guiding, and how do you kind of approach that?
So yeah, the anxiety and the pressure of putting people on fish is definitely a real thing. Even though I've been doing this for 2 years, I still get that anxiety because you never know, what's going to happen when you get out there. You could be on fish one day and tearing it up, and then you go back the next day and they're like they just disappeared, you know.
Right.
So it's definitely part of it, but I really enjoy teaching. So I've always kind of had a passion for teaching people. Even before I became a licensed guide, I would take buddies out and I would just spit out all this knowledge that I've been getting. I'm just that kind of person. I kind of just regurgitate everything that I've been consuming. And so, yeah, I've just always had a passion for teaching, and that's one thing that I really enjoy about it is, getting people out there and teaching them to help cut their learning curve and to start catching fish. And it's always awesome when they catch a fish, of course, too. I love seeing that, especially if they've never caught a redfish. I've had quite a few clients that have never caught redfish before. And then also when they've never sight casted or seen redfish up shallow, a lot of people have never even seen a back out of the water or a school of redfish. And so it's just really cool getting to see them experience because I know how it felt the first time that I got to experience.
Thank you for watching Texas Tales. Go check us out now on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. It is at Texas Tales Pod. You don't want to miss out on all the stories from some of the greatest guides, wildlife biologists, and people on the Texas coast. Go check us out now.
Like that.
There's a lot of misdiagnosed mullet in this world that are called redfish by individuals that have not seen a redfish blow up. I was one of them
Oh,
for a
yeah.
long time. I got a question for you, Josh. Do you feel like you have more pressure to perform as a guide as your content's gotten bigger and more popular? Do you feel like it's like, well, this guy has to find schools of redfish? He does it all the time.
Sometimes, yes. I know people see my content and they see these schools of fish and all this crazy stuff happening. So sometimes that does get into the back of my mind, but I'm at the point now where I've guided so much that I'm like, at the end of the day, I can't control what's happening out there. Hopefully we get out there and they are there. And I'm staying on the fish pretty consistently. So especially this time of year, it's really a lot less pressure this time of year. But there are those tough times of the year though, where it gets a little bit stressful, and and you have those bad days, and you're like, man, what am I doing? Like, should I even be a guide anymore? And
Yeah.
I have a couple of guide buddies that I talk to about this, and they go through the same thing. It's kind of just part of it. It's not always going to be, phenomenal days out there. That's fishing. So.
Yeah. So you said you like teaching people when you go out. What are some of the things that you focus on when you're teaching individuals how to find the redfish, how to sight cast them, how to not blow them out of the area? What's some of the things that you work on?
So some of the things that I try to educate people with is I try to educate them about how important it is to pay attention to the wind, because everyone pays attention to the tides, and that's all fine and dandy. But a lot of our tidal influence over here on the Texas coast is from wind. And so I educate them about that, and then I'll educate them, this is why the water level looks like this because we've been having these kind of winds and so and so. And then once we get out there and we start spotting fish, I try to point it out to them. No, that wasn't a redfish. Those are just mullet. That's just bait over there, because they love to cast into them mullet, just like James
Oh, yeah.
said. And so I try to educate them the signals, the signs of what to look for, and the conditions to look at, and to look at what your previous days. Look at your winds from your previous days to help figure out where you're going to be fishing, where the fish might be, and really just try to educate them on how to identify the fish better. And then, of course, I educate them on using lures, different kind of setups as far as, popping cork setups, throwing a paddle tail, top water. But a lot of people that I get are really new at this, and so I'll start them off on the pop and cork with a gulp shrimp, and it's really hard to beat that.
Yeah, that's one of the kind of the things that, when I got the kids with me, we're throwing the popping cork with the gulp shrimp,
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
even though that I was scolded as a kid when I use shrimp or anything
Uh,
live bait. So, but it's still a go-to when I got the kids with me. So let
yeah,
me
it,
ask you
it's
this. So
go ahead.
when you're out there, what are the ideal conditions when you know that this is going to be a perfect day?
The ideal conditions are a low tide, because it's easier to find redfish on a low tide. All the bait gets pulled out of the grass and the fish get congregated together. Uh, you know, as far as barometric pressure goes, it is good to have a little bit of a lower pressure, but really what you're looking for is you want steady conditions. So as long as the conditions have been steady, then usually the bite's going to be pretty good. If there's been a drastic change in conditions, like a cold front just blew through, and like recently, the first cold front of the year, it spiked up that pressure really high. And any kind of drastic change is gonna affect the fish most of the time because they're like, oh, what's going on? And but once that settles out, then it's usually good. So ideal conditions for me is good sunny weather, not too crazy a wind. 10 to 15 miles an hour is fine. And then you want that barometric pressure to have been steady, at least for the past couple of days. And yeah, but I also like fishing in the wind, but I'm not going to take clients out in some crazy wind
Yeah.
because we're on kayaks.
Absolutely. So going back to when you were kind of a kid, younger days, did you do any freshwater fishing, or were you strictly saltwater?
Yeah, so I actually did quite a bit of freshwater fishing just from the bank, growing up in my adolescence into my teens. I would go to the local pond and catch some bass. And so, yeah, and I still do that every now and then. If I only got an hour or two to fish and I gotta catch a fish, I'll head over to a local pond and just jig some stuff on the bottom and catch some bass. So, yeah, definitely.
You're starting to sound like an addict a little bit.
Just a little bit, just a little bit. And but yeah, freshwater fishing is good for when you only got a short period to catch a fish, in my opinion. But if you live on the Texas coast, you just can't beat getting out there and catching some big old saltwater fish.
I mean, so when you're out there, if you have clients, if you don't have clients, what are you throwing? You throwing top water? You throwing soft plastics? What's your baits of choice?
So a majority of the time, I'm throwing a paddle tail, and I like to use knock and tail lures. 3 to 4 inch size on a weedless jig head because I'm fishing around a lot of oyster and things like that. So I'd rather not bother with getting hung up. And then I also like to use bugs lures from time to time when I'm sight casting and they're just not responding to a paddle tail. Maybe a paddle tail is just a little bit too much for them. Then I'll switch over to a bugs lure. And then, of course, on them super tough days, I will bust out the pop and cork with the gulp. I used to not. I used to have too much pride. I used to have way too much pride to use that, but a couple of buddies of mine, I'd go fishing, and it'd be a tough day, not catching nothing on the paddle tails, and they're over there smacking them on the pop and cork. Okay, let me go ahead and bust out the pop and cork. And so those are my primarily things that I use. I don't really top water fish that much. I will every now and then just for fun, but I'm just too lazy to sit there and work a top water. I mean, why do that when I can just retrieve a paddle tail? So.
Yeah, and that's so going to the knock and tails. My wife just got into it. She's crazy over the knock and tail lures, but I guess they came out with this new one that's like real gummy, and I don't know what type of material it is, but I don't like it.
Yeah, it's a TPE material, and it's kind of like the Z-Man lures.
Uh-huh.
And I know exactly what you're talking about, though. And I used a couple of them, and it wasn't really my cup of tea either. And I had a couple in my tackle box, and they ended up melting.
Yes.
Yeah, they
And
get all game.
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I bought a pack of those too, but no, I'm just using the regular ones.
Yeah, and that was something where, and I enjoy using the knock and tails as well. I'm a big top water guy. I like throwing top water just because I love the blow ups. But
Oh
it
yeah.
is no doubt just it wears you out, the amount of cast, the amount of times you're flicking that rod just for that
Mm-hmm.
one blow up.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
And the
And
misses.
oh, I know it, right? I've missed some real nice fish on top water.
Now, do you have different clientele? Do you have some of the ones that are a little bit more experienced, and you kind of approach that differently?
Yeah, so I have a handful of regulars that are more experienced, And it's always nice getting a client like that where you can kind of relax a little bit because you know that they're going to have a better chance of catching fish and not really having to instruct them as much. But majority of my clients are people that are brand new to kayaking. I've had a lot of clients too that have never even been on a kayak, and they just want to kind of test the waters and see if kayak fishing is for them before they go spend $2,000 on a kayak. And so, yeah, about 90% of my clients are people that are brand new to kayak fishing or brand new to artificial lure fishing, and they want to learn a little bit more about that. But it is nice, when I get those clients that are, it just feels like fishing with a buddy. So the way that I
Oh
approach
yeah.
that is it's kind of like just fishing with a buddy. It's like, where are we going? Oh, we're going here. Okay, and then you really ain't got to tell them much. And then, but the beginners, people that are new to kayaking, I always have a phone call with them before the trip, and I try to gauge what their experience level is as far as kayak fishing or artificial lure fishing, so that I can tailor the trip for them and make things a little smoother and easier for them. And so that's one thing that really helps me out when I'm taking a client out, just to have that phone call before the trip. So.
Now with your guide service, you offer the option to where they can just come and you have kayaks ready for them.
Yes, yes, that's correct. I have some Hobie kayaks with pedal drives, and so I offer those to clients, and they get real excited when I say pedal drive.
Yeah. Make it a lot
Like,
easier.
yeah, yeah. Uh,
How many fins do you go through a year on those Mirages, especially with newbies?
Yeah, so on the Mirage GT drive, which is I have a couple of those, which is the standard Hobie drive. I'm buying fins a couple times a year on those drives, but I have a kick-up drive too, and I haven't had to replace the fins on those in 2 years. So the kick-up drive on the Hobies are real nice.
So I'm not near as familiar with kayaking. My only experience is with the big canoe when I was little, and
Oh,
then ever
okay.
since, ever since then, I went to a boat. But what I will say is, I started parking the boat and walking way into the marsh, and it is a painful walk, but it is a beautiful experience. And all I could think is, oh my gosh, if I had a kayak right now, this would not be so terrible.
Yeah, yeah.
So what
Yeah,
about do you ever get on a boat or
I was
um
just about to say that. I have a boat too. I have a little 14-foot John boat that I built into a skiff, and got some float pods on it and got a nice little deck up front. And so I will take my boat out too. It's I got to do some things to it, so it's kind of parked right now. But I've had those same thoughts though, where I'm like, man, if I had a kayak, I could just get right on over to where all those fish are blowing up.
oh, absolutely. Now, do you ever take anybody out on the boat or is that just kind of more for your own leisure activities?
I'll take some buddies and stuff out on the boat, but yeah, as far as guiding goes, I'm not a licensed captain, so I just have the credentials for a kayak guide, so I can't guide anybody on a boat. But maybe one day I'll get a captain's license and start messing around with that.
So what's your plans for the future? Are you going to continue to run the kayaks? Or are you going to continue to just grow and get more into the boating activities and get your captain's license? What's next for Josh?
I've really been thinking about getting into guiding from a boat and from a poling skiff. Because I really like fishing shallow and I really like spotting fish out. I'm already spotting fish out for clients from a kayak. I'm standing on the kayak and the fish is over there, the school's over there. And I'm like, I wouldn't mind doing this from a boat, so I might eventually get into guiding from something like a poling skiff kind of setup.
Have you ever watched Trevor Kusha?
Yeah, I believe so. I see him on my feeds quite a bit.
He seems so he writes for the magazine and he seems like what you just explained in the future. He's got his skiff, he pulls around and he sight casts and his videos are very identical to what you got going on right now. So I could definitely see, that's your future for sure.
Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna have to hit up Trevor, be like, hey man, let's go on a trip.
Yeah, he's got a pretty big following as well, and it's like I said, your content and his are very similar, and everybody loves the school and redfish and watching the sight casting from it. So going back to now, was this something with your family? Did your family fish a lot, or did this just something that you kind of fell upon?
My dad fished a lot. You know, he grew up in Freeport, and back then when he was growing up, I'm sure the fishing was a bit easier for a time there, and they always had a boat and everything. So I kind of just got it from him. I don't really have a lot of family members, other family members that fish. But I always fished, you know, growing up from the bank, whether it was freshwater or saltwater. I still would go from time to time. I still would do a lot of surf fishing, you know, living so close to the beach. And so fishing is just, it's always been a part of my life, and it mainly just came from my dad. So
Hey, I get that, and it's funny because my fishing came from my mom, which is kind of weird to say.
that's cool though.
Yeah, no, she loves it. We always fished in the pond, same thing when we were younger. We didn't really live close to the coast at the time, and then we got a little bit closer, and holy moly, what a difference it is to be out in the coast rather than on the fresh water.
It really is. It's a whole world out there, you know. And the more I got into kayak fishing, the more I discovered how much fishable waters that there actually is over here on the coast and close to the Freeport area. It's just people don't even realize that there's a whole world out there to go out and explore and see all this wildlife. So.
Oh, absolutely. So if I'm getting started and I'm thinking I'm going to do some social media kayak fishing, what's the equipment I need to get out there and get going?
So all you need is a you know, you don't even need an expensive kayak, and I tell people that all the time. There's a lot of good kayaks out there that paddle real fast. You know, you only got to spend a couple $100 to get you a good Wilderness Systems tarpon kayak, and then get you a GoPro with they have these hats called an action hat, and you can put the GoPro on the hat. You can mount it right there, and just get out there and put some time in the water, go explore and look on Google Maps, and you know, just study Google Maps and say, you know, this place looks like it has some water. Let me go check it out. And of course, you always want to check the weather conditions before you get out there on a kayak and make sure it ain't too crazy windy. And just get out there with that GoPro. And also, I do a lot of my footage from my phone because these phones have just amazing cameras on them, and you know, you can get out there and get some really killer footage from your phone these days.
So what are some of the unwritten rules of kayaking? You know, you always as boaters you talk about, hey, don't run through my way. Don't if I'm on birds, stay away. So some what are some of the things that as a kayaker you see someone doing something where you're like, come on, man.
uh Not too much really, you know. I guess, well, there are a couple things like putting too much stuff on your kayak, you know. A lot of people will get into kayak fishing, and they'll have some extra money to spend, and they'll buy everything under the sun to go on that kayak. And that's, do what you want with your money, you know, but you're not going to be able to paddle very fast on a heavy kayak. And so that's one thing that I think people kind of, when they first get started, they get too much stuff. You know, you don't need a lot of stuff to get out there. Or really, all you need is a fishing pole and a pack of paddle tails and some jig heads, and you know, you can get out there and catch fish. And so that would be one thing. And then another thing is too many people are, because kind of coincides with that. Not enough people get shallow enough. You know, they'll go into a bayou and kind of just park there and just fish a spot, which you can catch fish that way too. But you know, they're wondering why they're not seeing these schools and these redfish, you know, because you got to put in the work, and you really got to get back there and do some paddling, you know. And a lot of people are afraid to paddle. You know, you got guys, and I'm not knocking them, you know, do what you want, whatever you enjoy. But you got guys out there with trolling motors and pedal drives, and they're not going to touch that paddle. You know, they're just going to move around in the bayous or whatever it may be, And like I said, you can catch fish that way. But if you want to see the kind of stuff like I post on my feed, then you gotta get shallow and you gotta put in that work. And whenever you feel like, oh man, this is getting too far, I haven't been able to find any fish. I'm just gonna turn around here. That's usually when you need to keep going a little bit further, and that's usually when you're gonna find some fish.
Now, how far do you normally go when you're out there? What's kind of the sweet spot?
So it just depends on what I'm doing. If I'm taking clients out, I'm usually not going very far, because like I said earlier, there's a lot of beginners and stuff, so I'm really not trying to put them through the ringer. But when I'm with my buddies, it could be anywhere from 7 to 12 miles, especially if we're checking out a new area, because I'm constantly fishing new areas that I've never fished, all the time. I'm always switching it up. And but I say the average trip is probably about 3 to 5 miles.
And that's a pretty good workout.
Yeah, it is. It is. And and I might have even discouraged a couple people, on the days when we had to make some longer trips, because they're like, "Man, I don't think I want to do this." And hey, and hey, that's a part of the reason why they pay me, though, because they want to see if it's a fit for them. And
Right.
so if you're on the fence about getting a kayak, it's always a good thing to hire a guy. You see if it's even for you, before you go spend that money on an expensive kayak.
Absolutely. That's the best way to do it. Try it out before you go purchase all this equipment and then find out you don't even like it.
And then
So,
and then end up selling it and buying a boat.
yeah. So, do y'all ever run into wade fishermen, or y'all kind of in an area where it's pretty isolated for kayakers?
I don't really run into wade fishermen that much. Every now and then I will, like if I'm fishing West Bay, which I don't really fish that often, but I have some buddies that do, so I'll go there and there'll be some wade fishermen, but I'll just try to respect them and move as far away as I can when I'm traveling past them. But most of the time, where I'm fishing, there ain't gonna be any wade fishermen because it's soft mud, and so that's the majority of where I'm fishing at.
Now, is there anything you'd like to say to the boaters that are flying by you when you're trying to get out there?
Oh
Let them
no,
have
no,
it.
there ain't nothing I gotta say, but I will say, if you are flying by, don't try not to slow down. Just keep going fast, because a lot of the times when you slow down a boat, you'll actually create bigger wake than
Right.
when you're going fast. So if you're not too close to the kayak, just keep booking it and just keep going along. And people that understand, have been kayaking, they're not going to get mad about it. But there are a lot of beginners out there that might get pissed. But
Ha-
go ahead, James.
Oh, have you ever made that track out to that like isolated spot just to find your Poland skiff you're looking to eventually get? You're like, man, the only boat that could get back here.
Every now and then, yeah, every now and then I will see a Poland skiff here and there. But usually, in those kind of areas, there's so much water to cover. I don't even sweat it. I'm like, hey, there's plenty of water out here for us all to catch fish out here. So let's just get along. And as long as you're not getting in my way, I'm not getting in your way, then we're good.
So you're fishing out of Freeport. Are you going left out the canal or right? Are you going to East Bay, or where's your kind of starting point and where you're ending up?
So I fish Freeport, but I also like to fish the Brazoria area. It's closer to the San Bernard. I like to fish all the marsh over there. I like to fish a lot of the marsh in the Surfside area. So anywhere from Brazoria to Surfside, if it looks like it's a shallow area, which you can tell on Google Maps, the water will look kind of brown,
Right.
on the map, and that's a shallow area. So any shallow area like that, I'm fishing it.
So what's your colors in that dirty water that we always talk about this? Everybody's got their preference. What's the colors you're using?
I'm primarily using anything that's like resembles a Texas roach color, with a black and a gold, or some red in it. And then also I'm using white, with the chartreuse tail, because white is a lot easier to see when you're sight casting. You can track that lure as you're reeling it in. And those are my two primary colors. And then I also been using another color recently that kind of resembles more of a shrimp color. It's like a copper kind of with some copper flake in there. And those are my three primary colors.
So when you're out there, have you ever got stuck out past the point in which you're like, oh, geez, it's way past dark. I don't even know how I'm going to get back. How are you tracking through the dark out there?
Yes, I have had that happen to me a couple times. There was actually one time when I first started out, I went out in the evening time after work, and the tide was rushing out. And it was this spot that I had fished quite a few times. And I got back, I started heading back towards dark, and I got back to the launch, and there was about 50 yards of soft mud to get
Ooh.
to my truck. And I'm like, oh no, this is not good. So I get out of my kayak and I start walking, and I'm holding on to the kayak, because I'm getting knee deep, thigh deep in soft mud. And man, it must have took me about an hour and a half just to trek those 50 yards to get to my truck. And there was even times where I was like, man, I might have to call somebody. I might have to call 911. I might get stuck out here, but I just kept pushing through, and I'm like, no, I ain't doing that. And and I got back to the truck, but it took about an hour and a half of walking through that soft mud.
Oh man. So what was the favorite kayak trip that you've had, and what are some of the highlights of that?
I think I have a couple favorite kayak trips. One of my most favorite kayak trips was fishing with David Foreman in Port O'Connor, and he used to be a kayak guide down there. And I had booked a trip with him, and we kept having to reschedule. And then we scheduled a day, and I called him the day before. I'm like, hey, we still going? He's like, yeah, we're going, but it's going to be more of a friends trip. I got a couple other buddies going. So there was a guy named Kenneth Yetter that was there, and he used to be a kayak guide. And then there's another guy that was supposed to show up that's a pretty famous YouTube personality, RX Angler, and he was supposed to
Okay.
be there. But the whole time I was driving there, it's about a little bit over a 2 hour drive from where I'm at. It was lightning everywhere, everywhere. I mean, all around me it
Oh.
was lightning, and I'm driving, and I'm like, okay, like, I guess we're going. And I get about halfway there, and I call David. I'm like, "Yeah, are we still going today?" And he's like, oh yeah, we might have to wait it out till about 9 or 10 o'clock till we can launch, but we should be fine. So I get over there, and there was another guy there that was he had a YouTube channel too. I can't remember his name, but we're looking at the radar, and there's a big old sail coming, straight towards us with red and everything in it. And we look over at David and Kenneth, and they're like, "Y'all ready?" And we're like, yeah, I guess so." And so we get out there, we go out from that POC center, and we're going through that channel, to get up into the bays, and it starts pouring rain, and it starts raining sideways. So we get up in the grass, and we put our rods down. We're just sitting there in the grass, and it starts lightning, and we're counting it, and quite a few strikes that were 2 to 3 counts away, you know.
Oh
And
man.
man, we sat there for an hour just getting drenched and waiting on that lightning to pass by, and then finally cleared up. We get out there and head off east on that north shoreline, and there's just fish everywhere. And I'm like, what is this? I had never been to Port O'Connor before, and I'm like, there's fish everywhere. And so I'm over here casting. I caught like two redfish, and they're scooting along. I'm like, why aren't these guys casting at all this activity? Like, what's the? And so I go up to David, and he's like, well, this ain't even where we're fishing at. We haven't even got to the fishing spot yet. Okay. So we travel down a couple miles south of that shoreline, and we get to the fishing spot, and there's just pods of redfish everywhere. And man, we sat there and smacked schools and pods of redfish till 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or after all that crazy rain had passed, and that was one of the most phenomenal fishing days I've had.
Oh man, you got to love that when it starts off so terrible, but it ends so great.
Hmm.
S-
And
So
that's when a lot of the best fishing days happen. I don't know about y'all, but for me, a lot of the best fishing days are when the weather's a little wonky.
no, it's normally for me. It starts off terrible and ends even worse. So
I've had those days too.
yeah. So Josh, why don't you tell us, kind of give the audience a little bit about your channels, where they can find you, where they can sign up to go out and kayak fish with you.
So you can find me by looking at my website, and it's kayakfishfreeport.com. And all my rates and everything are on there. My phone number's on there. So you can give me a text or a call. And then you can also follow me on TikTok at Josh Likes to Fish, and have a nice little channel on there. And you can find me on Facebook. Just search up Joshua Johnson and look for the guy holding a big redfish, and you'll find me on there. I really like TikTok because the video quality is so much better
It
when you're
really
uploading video.
is.
I don't know what's going on with Facebook. They need to get it together because TikTok quality is just so. So I try to tell people to follow my TikTok because you're really the quality is just amazing on there. But
That's awesome.
those are the main places that you can find me.
Well,
You know,
you ain't far from me.
if I told everyone in this call 5 years ago, go to TikTok for good fishing information, y'all would have given me the worst looks in the world.
Yeah,
Like,
I
what
was
is
one of
that?
those people that I was like, I ain't gonna use TikTok, like Chinese TikTok, I ain't touching it.
The Chinese communists are gonna know all your fishing spots, Josh. You got to be careful.
Yeah, yeah. I was the same way, and then I finally started dabbling with it, and but yeah. Anyways, moving on from that. Don't get me started on all that.
Right? We'll get political on here real quick.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, you're not far from me. I'm actually in Needville, so you're only an hour drives
Okay.
from me. So we're
Yeah.
definitely gonna have to plan a trip. I'm gonna have to try out the kayak and see what it's all about, and then you'll have to come out with me, and we'll go out on the boat or something.
That'd be great, man. Let's do it. Make it happen.
All right, Josh. Well, we really appreciate you coming on and kind of sharing your story and how everything and you got started. And it was a pleasure meeting you. And hey, looking forward to going fishing with you.
Hey, it was really nice meeting y'all. I appreciate y'all having me on here, and looking forward to talking a bit more, not about myself so much when we go fishing.
Thank you for watching Texas Tales. Go check us out now on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. It is at Texas Tales Pod. You don't want to miss out on all the stories from some of the greatest guides, wildlife biologists, and people on the Texas coast. Go check us out now.